Alright, hello everyone. This is coming out a little bit later than I would have liked it to. But nevertheless, here is the commentary track for the Asbel solo. How this is going to work is I'm going to go through and watch every video in the run, pausing and rewinding as much as I need to point out stuff. And talk about the fights as extensively as I can. So basically stuff like prep work, how long it took, thoughts on the fight, etc. Basically whatever comes up as I'm watching. I've prepared notes, but they're really basic, and I haven't written about all of the fights, mainly because for some of them I just don't really have a lot to say. There are timestamps both in the video progress bar, hopefully, if I can figure out how that works. If not, they will also be in the description, so you can either skip to the parts you're interested in or find your way back easily if you want to watch this video in parts, because this is probably going to be pretty long. Before we get into the meat and potatoes, I want to briefly mention and thank a couple of people that have shown support and helped me with the run in various ways. I want to thank Kevasa and Crystal Spire for answering questions and clarifying how parts of the battle system work, as well as being there for a couple of recording sessions, giving me advice or suggestions for beating certain bosses. I also want to thank Samu for hanging around over voice chat during a big part of the recording process. We worked on our Graces runs basically at the same time, and it was a lot of fun to have someone to talk to while doing it. He also had some helpful advice and suggestions, so thank you. Thank you to Jakun and Homura for being there and supporting me at the very end of the recording process, and for giving feedback regarding the thumbnail design used in the videos. Thank you to MIDI for finding art skipping for Asbel, and thank you to Mucktails for teaching me how to do it. And last but not least, I want to again thank Mucktails. This time for being very supportive and for pushing the game as hard as he has, and really showing just how insanely technical and cool Graces can be when it's played at a very high level. All around a very inspirational runner, and this run definitely would not exist without his efforts. Before getting into the commentary itself, I just want to say that a lot of these videos are many months old, and I just straight up don't remember a lot about them, let alone specific things that I may want to point out. This is something I'm definitely going to have to prepare for better once I'm recording my next run. I'll try to make more notes in the moment and not leave it until the last minute, like I did with this one in places. I apologize in advance for what will probably be a commentary track with a very fluctuating overall quality, but I hope it'll be interesting nonetheless. With all that out of the way, let's talk about the run. This is also coincidentally when I'm going off script, as I'm sure you'll be able to tell. Okay, give me just a moment while I rearrange everything. Okay, here we have the Asbel run in its entirety, all 21 videos, including the thumbnails, but we won't be taking a look at those today. They just happen to be in the same folder as all the videos. Before we get into the first boss, though, I'm going to bring up a couple of questions that were brought up on my Discord server. I asked the people there if they had any questions or topics that they wanted me to cover during the actual commentary track. So let me just read out those real quick, and we can sort of keep them in mind as we watch the boss fights. One of the points was about the wisp that comes out when Asbel activates his Axle mode. Because while it can be very helpful for building combos, it can also be very problematic when wanting to finish off a combo string with, say, a Mystic Art, because it can have a tendency to eat that input and just not make the Mystic Art come out at all. So basically, where were some points where I consciously had to work around that to make something work? So we're going to keep that in mind as we watch all these. Another one was, what were some difficult combo points in general? As in, what were some things I really wanted to include, but had to go to extra lengths to actually get in there? And we're going to talk about that as they come up, because there are quite a few throughout the entire run. And lastly, what were the save files like? And I can talk a little bit about this before we actually get into watching, because it won't come up as much while we're going through this. So you could say that this run started life many years ago as a Hubert run. I believe there is still a video up on my channel that it might be public, but it might be unlisted. I unfortunately can't remember. But it's basically me practicing against Victoria with Hubert. And I was intending on making a Hubert run first. That was the first Graces thing I worked on, and I got quite far. I believe I got a little over halfway through before, well, before I gave up, really, because back then I didn't know the stuff I know today, which would have made the run a lot easier. As a result, however, when the time came that I actually decided to give Asbel a try, and give Graces another try in general, I decided to use the same save files. So for the vast majority of the run, I'm working with, how old would they be? At least 4 or 5 years old, these save files. And bear in mind, this was before I really knew how to prepare for boss fights in Graces. If I ever do another Graces run at all, I will probably just run through the entire game again and set up the different save files individually for all the bosses with decent equipment for all of them. Because as it stood for this run, what I ended up using was a rare sword, which I dualized a couple of times. And that was entirely because I obviously needed a character that I could use a, what's the word? I needed a character that I could turn into Hubert, and I just figured, well, Asbel is in the game from the very start, why not just use him? It's also kind of a good thing, because Asbel's stats can become kind of insane on Hubert, specifically his Kriya's attack. But that's entirely beside the point. So that's the reason why I had a rare sword that I'd worked on a little bit. And then as soon as Hubert joined properly, which would be around, when would that be? It would be for Dispaters, I believe, would be the first boss he's actually properly in, if you don't count Richard 1, where he joins temporarily. So after this point, I just started developing Hubert instead. So the Hubert in all of these save files as well also has, not great equipment, but he has more developed equipment than what Asbel had. For the vast majority of the fights, I had a rare sword with burn on it, essentially. Which was a good thing, because burn ended up coming in handy in quite a couple of fights. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more as we get into them. But yeah, the save files, they were very old. They were woefully underprepared. but it worked out kind of fine anyway. So that's pretty good. I think that was about it. Yeah, so as we go through these, keep in mind the Wisp sometimes eats Mystic Art inputs, so I'm going to point those out where I remember such points being, and also difficult combo points. So let's keep that in mind as we get into Nova Wolf. So Nova Wolf is a very not exciting boss, unfortunately. Being the first boss of the game, it's kind of more like a regular enemy, because this is obviously among the first fights you'll be doing as adult Asbel. So they don't want to throw something too difficult at you. And don't worry, it may seem like I'm just rambling right now, but we're gonna watch this a couple of times over, because there's a lot to go through. I'm just kind of giving you guys this time to watch the video again and kind of remember what was going on in it, also for my own benefit. Okay, so with that first view done, and some rambling about the boss quality, let's take it back to the start, and for this one, I obviously wanted to show off art skipping, because it was something I was practicing and I wanted to use it throughout the run. So in this specific fight, I believe there are 2 instances of art skipping. I don't think I do, and they're both in the first combo. They're pretty close to one another. I don't think there are any in the second one, as far as I can remember. I wasn't paying enough attention while watching it just now, so yeah, let's just go through it again, and I'll pause when we get to the relevant points. I will also be utilizing the slowdown feature of Media Player Classic when I need to, which I believe is Control down arrow. It sure is. Okay. So let's jump forward a little bit, because this first part is essentially just me waiting for him to activate his Nova Barrier. That right there was the first art skip. I'm doing Phantasm Flash from a neutral stance. Technically I'm doing it while I'm guarding, because the way you do art skipping, in case you you maybe don't remember how to do it, you hold the guard button, and then you don't need to hold it, but you input guard, a art, and an art shortcut on the right stick at the same time. So one way to make this easier is to just hold square, because you can actually do that. It won't work if you hold square and cross and then flick the stick. It won't work if you do that. But you can hold square, so that's what I was doing right here at the beginning. We'll take a look at that again. As you can see, I go straight from guarding into Phantasm Flash, and that is the first art skip of the run. Combo drops there because the hit stun on Phantasm Flash and the time for Wing Crush to actually connect aren't quite good enough, but it's okay because it transitions into Wolfwind Fang just fine anyway. I don't lose out on that many hits either way, so it's perfectly fine for it to drop there. That right there was the second art skip, and here I'm using Abyssal Seal after, God, what's it called? Nimble Fang, I believe? Yeah, Nimble Fang. The timing to do an art skip is also pretty strict. It has to be when an art is about to end. So if I do this, if I rewind this and do it slowly, if you can see, it happens right around, like right around the end of Nimble Fang, and it is quite a tight window. The window is easier for certain arts than others, at least they are to me, because I practiced using certain arts, and Nimble Fang was not one of them. An art like, say, Bestial Roar is pretty easy to art skip after, because the art itself has a decently long animation, so you have a lot of time to actually prepare for the input, but Nimblefang is so fast that you need to have quick fingers. Another art I use a lot throughout the run to set up art skips is Ice Dragon Flurry, and I find the timing for that one to be pretty easy. I can't exactly remember what queue I had. I just remember it being one of the most consistent arts for art skipping for me personally. And the rest of the fight is basically just going to be some basic comboing as I take him down. The first combo sure did a little bit of damage, but it was mainly for style points. Also, if you're wondering why I haven't maximized the video player, it is so you can see the progress bar down here as well. Might not be important, but I felt I should mention it. It's also for my own benefit. Dodging around a bit. This might be something people aren't too familiar with if you haven't played Graces a lot recently. There are... Hang on, I think I missed it, yeah. There. Not there. There. There are certain skills in the game that when you have them, you regain CC when you hit a stunned enemy. So that's a very, very handy way to recover CC. The way the stun system works, for those that are unaware, I was unaware before I started working on this run, shows how perceptive I am. Keep your eye on this little blue bar down here. This is probably going to be super duper basic for most people, but I figured I should mention it. It's called a critical gauge, I believe. And when it's full and you hit someone, you will crit them and subsequently stun them. The stuns are on an internal 10-second cooldown. So after this point, I would not be able to stun the boss again until 10 seconds have passed. Mystic Arts reset that timer, I believe. I could be wrong on that. If I am, please let me know in the comments. That's a very important mechanic to remember, just as you're playing the game, and especially when soloing, because, well, there's no one to combo the enemy for you when you're trying to recover CC by idling, so it's really good to try and squeeze in some CC gain from hitting stunned enemies like this. I originally wanted Abyssal Seal itself to kill Nova Wolf. I'd gotten a take like that before, but this time I guess the damage wasn't quite there. So what ends up happening instead is that the Wisp actually kills it while I'm charging up Gale Maw. Which I guess makes for a kinda cool end card, but I would have liked it if Abyssal Seal killed. And that is the first boss down. If you think this took a long time, don't worry, not all bosses will take this long. I'm covering a lot of the basics here right at the beginning. Moving on to Helmcrusher. Helmcrusher itself is not as big of a pain as Polycarpus, which is the other robot tank kind of boss. But it has its quirks, namely in the hit stun department. Though, again, not at all as bad as Polycarpus. But let's watch it, and I'll give my thoughts as we go through. I'm going mainly with a B-art focused approach here, much as I did with Polycarpus. Reason for that is that B-arts have very solid damage, they have good hit stun, and they also are quite reliable, because their hitboxes are good. Yeah, that's basically it. Didn't go for a CC reset there because I waited a little bit too long and I didn't feel comfortable going for the CC gain. Because obviously when your sword is drawn, you have to sheath it, and it's a pretty long animation. So I was afraid of missing that window, so I just kept going with the B arts. Ruinous Bloom will see quite a lot of use in this run here and there. I think it's a pretty underrated art, honestly, especially against bosses with big hurt boxes rather. Bosses with big hurt boxes like this one right here. It also has decent hit stun, which is a nice help. I did feel comfortable going for it that time though. That part right there was one of the main reasons why I decided to keep this take in the first place. This was one of the very, very earliest takes I did for the run. I believe it's even older than the Nova Wolf fight we just watched, because that was re-recorded midway through the run, I believe. I obviously started at the beginning, but as time went on, I felt like, I should probably redo that boss. And I ended up doing that for quite a lot of the bosses, actually, re-recording them as the run went on. So for some, it's kind of in chronological order. For some, very much not. We'll get to that when it becomes more of a point, though. Because for this one, yeah, this was a very, very early video. But yeah, this interaction, or this string of events right here is why I decided to go with the take, because I thought it was pretty cool. Let me watch that again. Okay. You might be wondering why I didn't get my CC back there. I believe in order to get CC back from a stunned enemy, you have to return to neutral first. So even though I hit him with a 1 CC AR there, I did not get any CC back. Probably also partly because the stun... It was probably already over by the time it connected. It was very, very barely in time, I believe. But I do believe it has to be from neutral. That right there was a mistake, and I got very lucky, as you'll see here. I used Phantasm Flash, and I thought I had more CC than I did. And in fact, you can even see afterwards, if you see those little sparks that fly out from Asbel here, I'm going to slow it down. That indicates that you tried to do an action that you don't have enough CC for. And what I tried to do specifically was sidestep. I couldn't because I had no CC left. Thankfully, the boss decided to do the cannon move, which has a pretty long wind-up, so I ended up getting out completely safe. There are also going to be quite a few of these finishers in the run. Drawing the sword to kill. It wasn't planned or anything, it just kinda ended up being like that. And I think it's a pretty snazzy finisher, so I really didn't mind keeping any takes that ended up, that just happened to end like that. Moving on to Queen Slime, or is it Slime Queen? I always get that mixed up. Funny story, actually. Whenever I upload a video against a slime boss, there's always a dislike on that video, and I think there's someone watching my videos who just either hates slimes or hates the way I fight slimes. I don't have anything against it, of course. I just think it's pretty interesting. It's like without fail, every single one. I'm pretty sure anyway, I haven't looked in a while. But yeah, Queen Slime. Let's take a gander at this one.
We will survive.
Drawing my sword and then backstepping, because I noticed if you do an action of some sort. Queen Slime is quite likely to just spawn her minions where she's currently standing, rather than moving towards you and then summoning them. And I want her to summon them as far away from Asbel as possible, so I can deal with them before she gets too close and threatens to kill me. One way to do that is by doing exactly that, doing Concussive Bolt and altering it into Burial Blade. The first slime dies instantly because it was a crit. The second one survives because it wasn't a crit. Queen Slime was getting close there, so it was kind of scary. Very sad that Diabolic Rage dropped the combo there. It dropped the combo counter, but everything still connected fine, which I am kinda happy with. I would have liked to see it actually chain completely, but I can live with this. Again, the combo drops there, and it actually drops for real, and the boss gets a chance to act. I kill her before she has the chance to spawn any minions. In past takes I had, she actually got to do that, and that's not a huge problem. Asbel can deal with them pretty easily. But I sort of set it as a personal challenge of mine, was to be like, can I kill this thing without it spawning minions? And the easiest way to do that, of course, is to just kill it in one combo. Which I technically didn't, because the combo dropped twice. But she still did not summon her minions, which was what I was going for. Queen Slime, overall, I have some issues with. I don't know if it's the boss itself, or if I'm doing something wrong. It just feels like some arts are more inconsistent against that boss than against others. But it's probably just a feeling. Right, Mercurius, we're starting to pick up the pace here. I do believe the fights are starting to get shorter now.
We will survive.
I don't know why that first dragon charge didn't connect fully. I've looked at this footage over and over again, and I just can't figure out why. I'm gonna take a look at it again in slow motion. It looks like the first hit doesn't have enough hit stun to actually convert into these the other slashes that come after. Luckily, the following slashes do stun Mercurius, so I don't get punished too hard for that. Another instance of art skipping right there. This is the first video since Nova Wolf that actually had art skips. Going from Staggered Strike into Shattersteel Swarm. I wanted to use Shattersteel more than I ended up using it, because I think it's a very cool art. It deals alright damage, and when you can get it to work in a combo, it looks incredibly cool and feels very satisfying. And this is one of those instances. The Wisp really probably helped me a lot here in locking down the boss. Because as you can see, after Stagger Strike, Shattersteel will have a small initial hitbox when Asbel is jumping. Right there. And again, when he's coming down, and as you can see, the Wisp is coming down at roughly the same time. Boom, hits the boss. I forward step to go into Dragon Charge, while the Shattersteel projectiles are hitting the boss, locking it down. And this time, Dragon Swarm can connect in full, and the boss can eat a Mystic Art. This is probably one of my favorites in the run because of the high pace it has. I think it's quite exciting to watch, and it's a video that I've watched a lot, partly to figure out what was going on with that first dragon charge right here, but also because I just really enjoy the combos in it. Mercurius itself, aside from the hurt boxes that it seems like the tail doesn't really have proper hurt boxes. It seems like you kind of need to hit the body even though you're attacking from behind. I'm pretty sure when you hit Mercurius, it actually raises its tail into the air. Yeah, it raises it slightly, and that might mess things up. Because if this part has a hurt box, then it's not going to connect with anything. I don't know if it does, though. That's just a theory of mine. But other than that, it's not too bad. Unless you give it time to breathe, because a lot of its attacks can be kind of difficult to dodge. Not because they're super duper, like, amazing or anything, it's just it has 2 tail swipe moves, and you have a very short window of time to actually notice which one it is, so you can dodge the right direction. Malik. Okay, so Queen Slime was the first boss to introduce minions, and it did so in a very controlled fashion. You get to see the boss, and then, oh, it spawns minions, okay? The minions are very easy to kill. And as you deplete the boss's health, she will keep spawning more of them unless you kill her fast enough. Malik. With Malik, you don't have that luxury. He spawns with 2 minions, and they're a pain. They're a lot harder to kill. They're more dangerous, because they're faster, first and foremost. And Malik is not slow. Won't just meander towards you. Instead, he'll just stay in the back and cast spells perfectly safe, while his minions try to whittle you down. So let's watch this one.
We will survive.
A lot of this fight is just taking care of the minions while dodging around Malik's spells when you can, and his attacks. This was completely unintentional. The first cluster raid dodge definitely was, because something like this tended to happen in basically all the takes I had. I would run up, do this basic combo here, sidestep the first attack, because he tended to use a Blade Rang attack, so I can sidestep that, get out of the way, Bestial Roar, which will then give me enough time to sidestep again, multiple times if needed, in case he uses Cluster Raid, which he did here. I can use Dragon Charge to pick up the minions again. And I trigger Axel here, mainly to keep these guys staggered. And I totally didn't even notice that Malik is rearing up to throw his Blade Ring here. By the way, the video quality of this run was kind of crappy, because I recorded it on this computer, which is my desktop. And I had to use OBS, and it did some funky stuff to the quality. In future, if I do console recordings, I'll just stick to using my laptop, as I always have. But yeah, Malik's rearing up to throw his Blade Rang here, and luckily, because I just triggered Axel, I will not take damage from it. This was completely unintentional, because I did not see that attack coming. I take some hits from Burn Strike, but thankfully, due to the Iron Stance I have from drawing my sword, they don't stagger me. And I recover the health quickly, thanks to keeping up the assault. Malik himself is incredibly hard to combo. He has a tendency to break out. He will also almost always just dodge around you and try to put distance between himself and you. So the Wisp can kind of help in that regard, because it can hit him while you're still not quite up to him yet, which could enable you to get close. As it did right there. Again with the art skipping here, going from Stagger Strike this time into Abyssal Seal. Completely not important to the fight, but I kind of like how the music syncs up with the slashes here, if you listen closely. Doesn't sync up perfectly, but the first 2 slashes sound pretty good. And yeah, that's Malik. As a boss, he doesn't have a whole lot of health, which I guess is kind of ironic, because I believe he's the party member with the highest natural health in the... I said he was the party member, right? I'm very tired, if you can't tell. It's a very early morning, and I'm running on pretty low sleep. He's the party member with the highest natural health. So, that's kind of ironic. It's very thankful, though, that he has... I'm very thankful for the fact that he has that low health, because you can just blitz him down quickly. I'd say the main part of this fight that I wanted to get good wasn't so much the actual killing of Malik, but more so the killing of the minions while dealing with Malik, and I think I did an alright job in this one. Coming up, we have probably my favorite fight in the run overall. I really like the stuff I did in this video, and hopefully you did too. So let's watch it.
We will survive.
There's the Ice Dragon art skip I was talking about. This time going into Diabolic Rage to keep Victoria suspended in the air. The good thing about Ice Dragon Flurry and why Ice Dragon Flurry is such a good art in general is because it lifts the enemy into the air, which essentially gives it more hit stun, because the enemy has to land before they can act again, which is quite good, especially against lighter opponents. It's actually quite bad against the heavier bosses, because, well, they won't, first of all, they won't be hit by all of the hits in the yard. And it doesn't have amazing hit stun on its own. It really needs the launching effect to really be as good as it can be. Diabolic Rage is a really good B-art. It has insane hit stun, and you can art skip into it from a couple of different things. Ice Dragon probably being the best one, because it suspends the enemy in the air like this, which gives me enough time to throw out a 1cc art, and then Wing Crush, which should hit about right at the same time Victoria lands. Basically. That's one of my favorite chains in the entire run. That right there, I think it's so cool. The rest is pretty standard stuff. Just throw out a bunch of arts until she dies, basically. I get a stun here, I don't do anything with it because I don't need to. I know she's gonna die from this Mystic Art right here, so I just go for it.
Impossible.
This is probably one of the fights I spent the most amount of attempts on because I wanted to get it just right. I also did it pretty early on in the run, when I was still experimenting with art skipping, which could be one factor as to why it took so long for me to get a good take of this one. I could probably do it faster now, but I don't think I want to because I really like this take as is. Victoria herself is nothing much to write home about in terms of attack. Like, if you've noticed that I'm not really talking a lot about the boss's attacks, it's because they don't really get to use a lot of them in these solos. I will point them out when they're important, but like the only thing Victoria does is she uses Wind Spear right at the start here. That's the one thing she gets to do, and then she dies. So, yeah, I just didn't figure it was that important for this one. Cedric, then. Cedric is kind of a meme. He will stay staggered for a very long time, but in return, he is absolutely glued to the floor. It is almost impossible to make this guy move anywhere. But it does let you do some pretty neat stuff, especially if you inflict burn on him, which increases stagger time even more. So, yeah, let's take a look at that. That was another art skip, Bestial Roar into Infernal Torrent. It's probably one of my favorite chains, at least against the heavier bosses, where it will actually connect in full. Because Bestial Roar won't knock them that far away, and Infernal Torrent will actually reach them. go back a little bit more so we can see that again. Triggers burn on him there. He also can't be stunned, but that doesn't really matter that much because he stays staggered for so long anyway. Actually, he might be able to get stunned, because some bosses will very rarely get stunned. I know Varus was one that only got stunned sometimes, so it's possible that the same is true for Cedric, but not from what I've seen. And just to disrespect right there, I end the combo string with 2 Demon Fangs, putting me at 0 CC as well. As far as I know, the only time I used Demon Fang in the entire run, and it had to be against the meme boss, of course. The reason why is because Demon Fang is a very bad art. Bad damage, bad hit stun. Don't use it. If I remember, Cedric took a couple of solid tries to get right. I wanted to get a 1 combo finish just because he's such a punching bag. So I wanted to really showcase that. But if you don't actually keep him locked down, he can be pretty dangerous because he has some pretty big moves and he can put traps all over the field, which will really limit you in terms of movement and stuff like that. So watch out for that if you're going to do this on your own. Speaking of meme, let's talk about everyone's favorite princess, Richard. You fight this guy a whopping 4 times throughout the entire run, and this first encounter is, yeah, I'd say it's the easiest one. Maybe Richard 2 could be a little bit easier, but he does switch things up by using different moves once he reaches a certain health threshold. But Richard 2 has way worse spells than this first one. But let's take a look at it. Actually, before that, I did put up, many years ago, I believe, a one-off with Asbel against this boss. And at first I was like, oh, I gotta really reproduce that take, because that one was really good. And then once I got back to this, and once I got back to Richard, and to try and record him, it was like, that one actually wasn't super great. So let's try doing something else. Let's make this a little bit more interesting. Let's see if I succeeded, shall we? Pretty standard starter here. I believe that's basically almost exactly what I did against Richard in the first Asbel video I uploaded. Gale Maw into Dragon Charge to stun him. Get some CC back. Ice Dragon into Diabolic Rage again, for much the same reason as Victoria, to keep Richard suspended in the air. But here's where it gets interesting. Another art skip immediately afterwards, and this time Sparrow Seal, using it as a launcher rather than sort of a combo finisher. This is not the way I wanted Sparrow Seal to connect. I wanted the last hit to connect, and sometimes I could get that to work, sometimes not, and it got to the point where I was like, I have a good take of this already, I am happy with this, I'm not gonna torture myself anymore trying to get those inputs all in a row. Let's just roll with this one. As you can see right there, the final hit of Sparrow Seal just narrowly misses him. Like, it's like right before he lands, which is quite unfortunate. Concussive Bolt is a very solid OTG option. It's the one I went with for most of the run. You can also use Gale Maw into Dragon Charge, but sometimes that just uses up way too much CC. And Concussive Bolt is technically faster and costs less CC. And if you want, you can chain it into Burial Blade. Why not? And I have enough time there to watch Asbel go through the post-concussive bolt animation, where he twirls his sword. And then do the long sheathing attack. This part I'm less happy with. I underestimated how far the Wisp would launch him into the air. So a lot of these last arcs don't really end up connecting all that well, which is a bit of a shame. I do get that kinda cool slide with Dragon Charge at the end there, which kinda could reference how Richard can slide around with Sword Rain Alpha. But I mean, it's cool enough, I guess. I would have liked if Moonlight Circle had connected a little bit better here. But whatever. I'm happy with it. One Richard down, free to go. But before then, let's fight some spiders. While I was working on this run, while I was working on the Hubert run, technically, I forgot to make a save point for this boss. So the initial recording session for Asbel accidentally skipped Entrails Parasite. So this was actually recorded towards the tail end of the run. When I basically decided to go back and make that save point, because I realized I didn't have it. So let's take a look at how that went. Entrails Parasite is also another minion boss, by the way. But this one is a bit unique. Rather than just spawning minions every now and then, it'll just explode into a sea of little spiders once it reaches a certain health threshold, which we will see. I'm really not doing anything too special in this fight. I wanted most of the challenge for me in this one that I wanted to tackle was to deal with the small spiders in an interesting way. Because you can't really do... I mean, you can technically do interesting things to this thing as well. I just didn't see it as a priority this time around. I was more interested in tackling the smaller spider situation. You see, this thing dies pretty quickly anyway. I'm doing a very bad job of dodging these rock lances, which I'm not too happy with. That's something I would have done better if I were to go back and re-record this. Here you will see me start to dodge these spells by using arts like Concussive Bolt and Abyssal Seal, which was one of the things I wanted to do. I wanted to use some of the aerial space Graces gives you sometimes to actually dodge attacks and do something meaningful. I could dodge the poison spray there with Abyssal Seal. Still getting pelted with spells, dodging like 4 rock lances with Abyssal Seal there. I believe there was something we need to cover here. Maybe not. I noticed the combo counter dropped, and I was wondering if that's because one of the spiders was stunned when I used the Mystic Art. Because if the enemy you're using the Mystic Art against is stunned, the combo counter will reset. I don't know exactly why that is. I think it might be a failsafe to like not essentially enable the player to just stun someone and then get a free Mystic Art. But I don't know. It could be a glitch. I wouldn't be surprised. But it could also be intentional. I'm actually not sure. I would love to find out. I'm not too fond of this fight. Both the boss itself and this take. I think it's among the weaker ones. And something interesting also happened when I uploaded this to YouTube. I believe the resolution, either height-wise or width, is like 2 pixels shorter than 720p. So YouTube was like, oh, so it's 480p then. Yeah, something went wrong in the rendering process. I'm not entirely sure what, but it was kind of annoying. Not super fond of this video, to be perfectly honest. Speaking of not terribly fond of boss or video, it's time to talk about possibly the worst boss in the game. And I will go into why right here. So these guys, as you'll see at the start, does anything catch your eye? Why yes, they fly. And what's the worst thing in Tales? That's right, it's flying enemies. So these guys have some pretty wonky hurt boxes, especially since a lot of Asbel's sort of go-to attacks will cover this region, roughly. Some of them will reach up here like a kick or two, but most of them will be right around here. Which is very annoying when trying to deal with these guys. They can also put Nova Barrier on themselves, which is a massive pain to deal with. Especially if both of them have it and you're trying to break into one of them. One of them casts a spell, so you have to dodge away immediately after breaking an Nova Barrier, and then it puts it back up, so yeah, that was a pain. I think that's basically it as far as annoying things they have. But I'm sure I'll be reminded of more of them as we watch this. The strategy, by the way, I had for this one was to just blitz one of them down with Mystic Arts. I believe I have the title that boosts Mystic Art damage by 40% equipped here. I'm pretty sure I do. Luckily, some of their hitboxes work in my favor too. If I'm standing close to them, they will just fly right over me. Not entirely sure why that dropped, but it did. Let me take a closer look. Oh, it was the final hit didn't connect in time. It connected in full that time, I believe, because the Wisp hit the boss while I was up in the air with the Abyssal Seal, and I think that might have adjusted its hurt box so that I could actually connect everything in time. I think. I'm not sure, though. I'm just tanking hits left and right here. In this phase, I really didn't care how much damage I took, as long as one of the Dispaters would die at the end. Which one thankfully does there, and now I only have one left to deal with. But as you can see, there's an entire minute left on the video. Vortex, by the way, is a spell that's... I believe it's very... There's one other spell that's almost exactly like it, but the dodge timings are different. So for this one, I basically never tried to perfect dodge. I would just get out of there as fast as I could. For safety. Inflict burn on him here, which I guess is kind of nice. It gives me a little bit more leeway with combos, because hit stun will be extended. Still managed to drop it anyway because I use Stagger Strike, which hits nothing down here with the first kick and then hits the boss on the second one. Thankfully the boss doesn't get to act, but it looks a bit sloppy. In Art Skip, that doesn't lead to anything, unfortunately. Also looked like Diabolic Rage hit like once there. It's supposed to hit multiple times. Looks like it. I don't know what happened there, possibly a hurt box. This is, like, almost painful to watch. This is a very, very sloppy fight, and it really angered me that I wasn't, like, able to, or even wanting to try and go for a better one. But this is the state it's in, so that's how it's gonna be. Really not fond of this boss at all, and I think it shows in the video as well. It's definitely one of the weaker ones, if not the weakest. It's just sloppy all around, and I'm not a big fan of it at all. I said it, so now it's okay for you guys to say it too. Okay, we are about halfway through the run with around 50 minutes on the clock or so. OBS tells me 57, but I might have edited out some pauses and stuff so far. We'll see if my future self will remember to do that. Bladehorn Boar. This is actually a very recent take. This was recorded after the run started. After I started uploading the run, that is. Of course it was recorded after the run started. I wanted to do more with Petrify, I realized, because this is one of the bosses that actually can be petrified. And I did basically nothing with that in the first take I had. So in this one, I try to go for some Petrify combos. So let's take a look.
We will survive.
And the way I'm getting Petrify on this boss, I believe, is through a gem. But I could be wrong about that. Or I have it on the weapon, I can't remember. The two options I have for hitting Petrify are basically 1cc arts or Burial Blade. There were takes when I would just do like combo strings forever without the boss getting petrified. Here I do get it very early on, which was nice. Immediately into an art-skipped Infernal Torrent. Into an art-skipped Shattersteel Swarm, into Wolfwind Fang. Wolfwind Fang, of course, being one of the less reliable A-arts, due to its hit stun and stuff like that. But when the boss is literally petrified, whew, pretty much everything works. Gonna use Axel here to give myself full CC back. You'll see me do that a lot of times in the run, purely for the AC recovery. I get Petrify here again, but I don't think I end up doing anything with it now. As you can see right there, I had 75 hits on the combo counter, yet when I triggered the Mystic Art, I got Lunar Requiem and not Expunging Sword. Why is that? Well, I forgot to bring this up earlier, but I am missing a couple of titles on these save files. Namely, well, the 75 hit third Mystic Art titles. I don't have those. So the times you'll see me use Expunging Sword, it will be from an LF burst and not a combo.
Who dares challenge me?
I'm much happier with this take than I was with the first one. I'm very happy that I actually went back and re-recorded this one, even though the run had already started. So, yeah. Petrify. Pretty cool. I wish more bosses could be petrified. Varus. Let me think if there's anything I want to say before we get into actually watching the boss. It has some hurtbox issues, and I'm assuming they're kind of similar to the ones Mercurius has. Hitting Varus from the front can be inconsistent, but if you do it from the back, it seems to work most of the time. And I'll point those instances out when we get there.
We will survive.
That attack right there that Varus uses, not only do the claws hit you, but the wings do as well. So I believe the part that I'm actually dodging there is the wing. Or it might have been this claw. You'll see me front step there after Bestial Roar. That's so Dragon Charge will actually connect in full. If I hadn't front stepped there, it would have dropped the combo. Just one of those, sometimes you need to be as close as possible for Dragon Charge to connect properly against some of these bosses where you don't go through them. Because I believe the slashes that come after the initial charge, they're behind Asbel rather than like in front of or on him. So you have to get really close in order for those hitboxes to connect. Using Axel both for CC recovery and then into an instant Mystic Art. Partly because I didn't want to deal with the Wisp on this boss, because some takes I'd had before, I found it difficult to manage it. So that's why I decided to do that here. I can then pick the boss back up by front-stepping and using Moonlight Circle. It's thankfully pretty easy to continue a combo after Divine Conqueror, because the enemy will be in the air, as you can see. And it has quite good hit stun as does Stampede Strike. Though Stampede Strike has the luxury of also knocking some bosses down, which makes it even better. Combo drops there, I think, because Infernal Torrent didn't connect in time. Yeah. Weirdly, however, I still get the Mystic Art. I'm not entirely sure how that worked, but I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth, I'm just going to keep going. Gush Stroke there was not intentional. I don't know what I was going for, but it almost certainly wasn't that. Actually, I think what happened was I thought I had free CC, but I had 2, because I was going for a Phantom Pulse here. But what ended up happening was Gush Stroke instead. Luckily, though, I still have time to get there and use a 1cc art to get some CC back. Combo drops again, and I don't have enough CC to extend Moonlight Circle into anything, and this is where Varus is going to summon minions, so this is yet another of the minion bosses. I believe Varus also calls in minions at different HP thresholds, but since it's been locked in a combo, like for the entirety of the fight, it's basically going to call in all of the reinforcements it missed. So I think there's going to be like 3 or 4 waves here. Yeah, 4 of them, I believe. I'm dodging around all of these air pressures a lot while throwing out some really basic B arts just to develop some like crowd control. And as you can see, it's building my LF gauge pretty quickly. Which is going to let me get the Expunging Sword finisher, which was pretty cool. None of that was planned, by the way. I wasn't planning on dodging all of that stuff and getting an Elf Burst. It just sort of happened in this take, and I was happy with it, so I kept it. Throughout this entire run, I never went into a fight with the intention of using Elf Burst. But I did allow myself to make use of them if they came up. But it was very rarely something I actually strived towards, if that makes sense. Here's another really fun boss. Cough, cough. Kurt was, I believe, one of the last bosses I recorded. I think I did... might have been... I think I did. Yeah, I definitely recorded the final boss last, I know that much, but this was pretty close to that one. So let's take a look at just how wonderful this little fight can be. Something to keep in mind here as well is that Kurt spawns with 2 minions, much like Malik does. But here the roles are kind of reversed, so Kurt will be the one going in close range, and the minions will be the ones attacking from long range. I don't know if that's intentional from the developers, but if it is, it's a cute little detail. And the way I decided to deal with this one, I like how the UI is sliding in here, by the way, is I have the title equipped that lets me do longer steps, and that's mainly for this first part of the fight. As you can see, I can cover a lot of ground with a single sidestep, which is going to really help me dodge Kurt's massive hitboxes. If I target one of the faraway minions while Kurt is approaching me, I can really just slip out from under him, essentially. I'm also using Incineration Wave to take care of them, because it deals very good damage. It's a very big, like, projectile hitbox to throw out. It has the potential to hit Kurt as well, which is quite good. So he takes some chip damage and also keeps him from just ganging up on me. Something that's really annoying though is you'll see a couple of times in this fight is I'll use Incineration Wave. The minions will block and then immediately act afterwards. Like right there. But that guy died, but I'm pretty sure this guy is going to block a couple of these Incineration Waves and then just act immediately afterwards. I'm just trying to gain some ground here. Yeah, like that. Blocked and then immediately starts prepping the rifle to fire. So it's very important to stay on the move and not just watch as Incineration Wave travels. You have to kind of hope that it hits them fully and they don't block it, rather than hoping that it blocks, hoping that it hits, and just staying put. It's best to stay on the move to keep away from Kurt. Once it does hit fully though, it deals truckloads of damage. And I think I'm gonna go in close and finish off this guy if I remember correctly. Or not. As you can see there, I thought I was further away than I was, but Kurt ends up hitting me because his attacks have insane tracking on them. You can see here. It starts attacking me to this direction. I step around him, he follows. Now he's done like almost an entire 360. And still manages to hit me. So it's very, very important to stay away from Kurt while he's attacking and then step in and attack him quickly while he's recovering. I think this is one of those fights where I don't do anything too spectacular. And you'll have probably noticed that Bestial Roar is one of my go-to arts for Asbel, because it kinda is one of his best arts. It has just monstrous amounts of hit stun that you can use it, front step, wait, and like regain a nice chunk of CC, and then just start up another combo without dropping the counter. So it's a very strong art. Ice Dragon here to lift him into the air, giving me time to sidestep and do Axel into another instant Mystic Art. Not the Axel Force thing though, or is it Axel Finality? I don't remember what it's called technically in the game. Because as you can see, the Axel bar is not full, but I was aware of that. I did that partly to get some CC back and also to just get to throw out Stampede Strike to extend the combo. I like that little moment too. I hit him with Gale Mod just as the music like hits its peak, which was unintentional, but it's very cool when stuff like that happens. And I activate the Mystic Art with the use of a sidestep here. Because I believe I only had 1 CC left at that point. Yeah, I had 1 CC after the sidestep. So I guess I wanted to do that for some added flair, I guess. Might as well make use of the long step title while you have it equipped, I guess. And down goes Kurt, one of the most annoying bosses in the entire game. Gee, I sure hope there are no other bosses like that. Moving on, we have Richard 2. I believe I recorded this one before Richard 1, because I had a take of this one earlier on in the process that I then wanted to redo. But this one, I believe, might also be one of the more recent ones, because I think I left this guy until kind of late. I don't know why. I possibly forgot about him. I tend to forget about this fight in general. So let's take a look at Richard 2. And here, there is a very specific combo point. Yeah, don't worry, I haven't forgotten about the questions. I have kept them in mind. So let's take a look, and I'll point out that thing when we get to it. Yeah, as you can see there, 1 CCR breaks Nova Barrier. Obviously, I have the title that lets me break Nova Barriers with anything. Yeah, I can keep going. I thought the point I was going to talk about was coming up, but it wasn't. Here I do another art skip. Bestial Roar into Gale Maw, and crucially, you can actually use altered arts after an art skip without skipping ahead any extra steps in the art tree. But it's kind of tricky, because you have to go from holding square, cross, and the right stick to then, very quickly after the art comes out, switch over to just holding circle to get the altered art to come out. So that specific chain right here was one of the reasons this fight was kind of hard to nail. But I think it looks pretty damn cool. This is the part that's important. I absolutely need to hit him with burn right here. Because if I do it... Actually, I should probably show why first, before I get ahead of myself. Because I'm gonna activate a Mystic Art with Demon Fist, because Demon Fist is garbage, and basically I needed him to be burned so that it would even connect in time, thanks to the extra stagger time I can get. This is a pretty interesting pose he's got there. But I managed to hit the exact 25 hits with Demon Fist, which is kind of swag, I guess. But yeah, it's very important. I had to hit burn right there. Because if I did it right at the start, for one, it wouldn't last long enough. And also, while an enemy has a status ailment, they can't be stunned. And I needed him to be stunned so I can regain CC and also keep the combo going, so I can hit that 25 hits precisely with Demon Fist. So that 1 CC art right there is not allowed to inflict burn. Neither is that one. Actually, let me think about it. That one is allowed. It doesn't really matter if you hit burn here. It won't last long enough for Demon Fist to actually connect. Burn will wear off before you get the chance to hit it. But it's not the end of the world if you get it here. But you do need to get it here in order for Demon Fist to connect. Because I'm pretty sure burn will actually wear off if you get it on the second 1 CC art. It has to be on the third one. Standard stuff there. Concussive Bolt to pick him back up, and then Axle Mode to regain all my CC. I feel comfortable using Plasma Shock here, partly because Richard is still burned, so I know that I'll get a little bit more hit stun from the Wisp as well, but also Plasma Shock. So I feel comfortable using it, knowing that I'll at least be able to launch him. And here I also feel comfortable using the extension, which normally would probably drop the combo, but keep an eye on the critical gauge. The Wisp stuns him as soon as he hits the ground, which enables me to use the extension pretty much for free. Then it hits him again while he's in the air, so he's suspended up there, allowing me to use Lightning Strike and kind of use its massive, like, vertical hitbox for once. Unfortunately, Moonlight Circle doesn't really do much there. The Wisp pushes him away, so Moonlight Circle doesn't end up connecting at all, but it's fine, because I can still trigger the Mystic Art. You don't actually need to trigger the Mystic Art with the last art you used in a chain. You only need to have, like... As long as you've hit someone with something in a combo chain, you can activate a Mystic Art, even if something completely misses. I believe, anyway. Feel free to correct me on that if I'm wrong. He's not going to die there, though, but that's perfectly fine. Step in, and then I'm lucky enough to get another burn. which lets me use another Plasma Shock right here, because he's still burned, so I know this will connect fully. And I have enough hit stun to then use Lightning Strike to take him out after he lands. Ending at perfect 0 ZZ for extra flair. This is probably a fight that has the most precise moments that had to go exactly right. And for that reason, I like it a lot. It was an absolute pain to record, don't get me wrong, but yeah. It was worth it in the end. I'm very happy with it. Alright, Polycarpus, it's time for a very not fun boss at all. As I mentioned before when we watched Helmcrusher, this guy is even worse than him in terms of like being staggered and stuff. And you'll see that in my strategy. So let's just get this over with. You can see I'm pretty sure it's the longest video in the run, actually. Actually, Dispaters might be longer. No? Okay. Huh. Well, it's the longest, but not by a lot, because fights and graces are pretty fast anyway. Yeah, let's just watch this. Again, using the title with the long step ability, so I can step around his absolutely massive model and just slip out from under his attacks without having to worry about getting a perfect dodge. To actually get out in time, I can just zoom around him a lot. Very similar strategy to Helmcrusher as well. I'm going to be using mainly B-Arts here, mostly because of the nice damage they do, of course. But they also tend to... I found a chain that tends to combo a little bit, which was more than I could get A-Arts to do. So that was a way for me to keep the boss locked down a little bit, at least. No clue how that missed me, but I'm pretty happy that it did. Maybe there's actually no hitbox in between here. That would be kind of hilarious, actually. I get a stun here, but I'm pretty sure I'm not going to bother with actually hitting it. I'm just going to go with B-Arts. Yeah. So yeah, the chain I was talking about is basically Moonlight Circle, Ruinous Bloom, Shockwave Slash. Any of those in like any of those in any order will typically combo. Especially if you throw in a couple of sidesteps. If I understand Graces correctly, sidesteps do actually extend stagger time. Because I remember in the Graces Parsec run I did with, well, basically the people I thanked at the start of this video, there were multiple times when a boss would be staggered and, like, enter... what's it called? Elf Break, that's what it's called. And they would just sidestep constantly, all of them, to basically extend hit stun and make sure the enemy couldn't act at all. I think, anyway. They did make use of that a couple of times. I feel comfortable saying that sidesteps extend hit stun. Then again, I could be wrong. At certain health thresholds, I believe, or it might be time-based, he will switch to... I say he, but it's a robot, so who knows. Polycarpus will switch to some different types of cannons up here. I believe they are missile pods. Which kind of changes how you have to approach the fight, because suddenly it can cover a lot more area, so you have to be careful. It can also switch back, and I'm pretty sure we will see it do that later. I think this was one of the bosses that made me quit my Hubert run, because I just didn't understand why it wouldn't stay staggered. Yes, basically just sidestepping around and using B-arts. There's really not a whole lot more to it. Now he's switched back to his first form. Got very lucky with Ruinous Bloom interrupting that attack there. That could have easily killed me. Axel there to recover CC. Excuse me. And I do manage to get the Mystic Art off. Yeah, the Mystic Art off after some trials and tribulations. Unfortunately, I'm not able to pick the boss back up with Ruinous Bloom after he comes down. While he comes down, rather, because Elf Break triggers, which is a bit of a shame. But, it's nothing too bad. Makes it a bit more climactic, I suppose. I'm perfectly happy with this fight, all things considered. It was actually quite fun, just dodging around and throwing out B-arts. I was pleasantly surprised, like, how enjoyable it was. And I found it less annoying that I couldn't get, like, a one-combo finish like I'd done against many of the other bosses in this run. Once I actually realized that, hey, this strategy is pretty fun too, and it's a bit different, so why not? Okay, so if Polycarpus was impossible to combo, this guy is possibly too easy to combo. Let's take a look. So this boss, Lambda and Lambda Angelus, they have a very interesting property that they share. If you start a combo with a crit, they will stay staggered for like an eternity. And I'm gonna show this off both in this video and in the one against Lambda Angelus. As you can see here, combo's still going. I'm able to refill a lot of CC while waiting. Partly because he stays staggered for so long, but also because for a lot of these fights I had a gem with the, what's it called? Reinforce, the effect that makes you recover CC faster while idling. And that works wonders on Asbel in basically every scenario. Essentially, if you don't need a certain weakness on your gem in order to make combos work better, or just hit more weaknesses, I guess, it's always a good idea to put Reinforce on there, because you can get quite a lot more CC back after Bestial Roar and such. It's a very, very good effect for Asbel. Even using Heaven's Wrath here, which is kind of hilariously bad. The combo drops here, but that's perfectly fine. I'm just... Basically what I'm doing here is I'm just building up the critical gauge again, because I plan to start the next combo in a pretty disrespectful manner. Like that. Another art skip there, Bestial Roar into Incineration Wave. This will not work against a lot of bosses, but against Lambda it sure does, because of that insane stagger time I mentioned so many times by now. Also gonna get Stampede Strike off here. Axel to get CC back. Unfortunately, the combo drops there, but it's fine, because a pretty cool finisher is coming right up. Kill him with Incineration Wave right as he puts up Nova Barrier, just as a final middle finger to send this boss into the grave. Lambda is pretty fun as just a combo fodder boss, because it's quite, like, therapeutic, especially after something like Polycarpus that's just almost impossible to combo. It feels pretty good to just wail on a boss like this. Next up, Centurioid. This is one of the fights where I don't really have a lot to say, unfortunately. Yeah, let's just watch it, and I'll try and bring up some things as we go through. But really, there isn't a whole lot I have to say about this one in particular, I'm sad to say. Yet another minion boss, so killing the minions right off the bat is pretty important. I'm not sure why I used Plasma Shock there. I think I just had it mapped and I decided to try and use it on the boss, so why not use it on the minions as well, I guess. In other takes, I try to dodge the arrows the minions shoot out by front stepping into them. Not so much in this take, I don't think, but it was definitely something I did a handful of times. I'm not sure why I sidestepped there. Possibly I wanted to get away from the boss, but in any event, the minions are dead now. So it's time to try and combo this guy, who can also be a bit finicky. This attack right here is pretty interesting. You can dodge it with a front step if you time it well, but if you stand close enough, you can dodge the move entirely with a front step, as I'm about to do here. I front step, and then the laser comes out behind me, essentially. So there's no hitbox there, which is kind of cool. Oh, I remember why I used Plasma Shock now. I was going for Paralyze. Yeah, there's a sudden white flash there. I don't know why. That's another issue with rendering, probably. I'm gonna try and skip that part in case there are people watching that are sensitive to such things. But then again, I guess this would kind of mess with people like that as well. But it's quite sudden and can be kind of jarring, so... There's nothing too fancy, really, in this one. It's kind of run-of-the-mill Asbel stuff. And then I make a mistake here by trying to finish him off with Plasma Shock, which he ends up blocking. And I believe summoning a minion right before he dies. Yeah. 2 minions, even. There, I get one of those dodges at least. Not a terribly difficult boss, but it was kind of difficult to make interesting. Mainly because I just had trouble against it. And famously, I say famously, but probably no one remembers this. Way back when I was still actively working on the Hubert run, I live streamed attempts at this boss, and I actually rage quit and just straight up turned off the console. Ah, how times have changed. What a little bit of knowledge can do to a player. I have nothing against Centurioid. I think it's actually a pretty fun fight, all things considered. But I would probably have gone back and made it better. I think I had too low standards with this one. I could have made it better, I'm pretty sure. Richard Free, then. Time to fight everyone's favorite princess yet again for the second to last time. And we are getting quite close to the end now. In case you guys were hoping to go do something else soon. Let's take a look. So I don't have the Nova Breaking title here. Instead, I run forward a little bit, and based on the run speed, I'm gonna say that I have probably speed and probably Reinforce, honestly, equipped on Asbel right now. A speed and Reinforce gem. That's generally what I used throughout this run. forward step into the Nova Barrier AoE, so I can get a perfect dodge for style points. Draw the sword, lightning strike. Yet again with the Gale Maw Dragon Charge stun setup. And I believe an art skip is coming up here. Ice Dragon Flurry. As you can see, Richard Free is a little bit heavier than both Richard 1 and 2, I believe. So I can't really use Ice Dragon to set up something like Abyssal Seal. Because I'm pretty sure Asbel will just end up too high. I could be wrong about that. We'll see when we get to Richard 4, because I do something like that in that video. But in any event, I'm going to use Shatter Steel here, and then draw the sword to also put out a hitbox while the projectiles are going against him. Or going towards him, rather. Pretty standard stuff. Lightning Strike, Moonlight Circle is one of my go-tos. Just for general use, it's a pretty decent chain. Richard 3 and 4 will also do this thing where they will recover mid-air, but you can just activate your Axle as they're falling down and you will pick them right back up. If you don't, it's entirely possible that they will attack you before you can get another hitbox out, and you know, you could die from that, which is not very good. Excuse me. I believe here is also one of the moments where I use a sidestep in order to basically be able to activate my Axle Mystic Guard here. For some reason, using a sidestep at some point just seems to make it more consistent. I'm not entirely sure if that's the case, or if so, why that is. It's just an observation I've made, and it seems to work. You've probably seen me do it a couple of times already, and I just haven't picked up on it. But I do believe this is one of the exact scenarios where I had to do that. There's another one like it in Richard 4 as well, I remember. This part right here is kind of chaotic. So I don't know how I froze him. I think I might have freeze in my weapon at this point. Or I have a freeze gem equipped. I don't remember exactly. Yeah, I throw out Phantom Pulse here, because at this point in the combo, with everything going the exact same, regardless of freeze or slow or whatever ended up happening there, this is where he tended to break out, even if I used an art that was really safe, like, say, Bestial Roar or something. So rather than have him instantly tech in my face and then kill me, I figured, what's the widest, longest free CC hitbox I can just throw out there right now to hopefully still catch him and finish him off? And the answer is Phantom Pulse. I believe this is the only time I used it in the run. But hey, it gets some use here, and it actually ended up being sort of the key to victory. So, good job, Phantom Pulse. You did something. Emeraude. Okay. Emeraude is one of those bosses that people probably think I'm weird for liking. Not like the character itself or nothing. Hell no. But like the boss fight, I mean, of course. I actually don't think it's that bad. It's not fun. Hell no. But there are worse fights in the game. Like Kurt, Dispaters, even Entrails Parasite to a degree, I guess. Polycarpus. Let's see if there's any other ones. Varus, I guess, too. Malik. Emeraude really isn't that bad, honestly. Once you figure out how to approach her safely. At least with Asbel. I obviously can't talk for any of the other characters how easy Emeraude is or anything like that, because Asbel's really the one I have the most experience with, both casually and as a runner, so that's the perspective you're getting. But let's take a look. I will point out the instances where it's kinda more safe to approach her, and then I'll point out the ones that aren't safe as well.
We will survive. No escape.
It is safe to approach her after the ball, because she has quite a long recovery time after that one. And against Emeraude, I want to keep it simple. I don't want to do overly long combo strings. I don't want to do complicated combo strings, because if I stay close for too long and the combo drops, she's going to push me away. So most of the comboing in this fight is just really standard A-art stuff. A couple of Bestial Roar resets, of course. Axel and a sidestep. And into Burial Blade to get the Axel Mystic Art. It can be safe to approach her after the one where she shoots out all the tendrils. Or I guess they're technically swords. Looks like a sword there. It can technically be safe, but I'm pretty sure anyway. But I decided not to, because I think that move is pretty scary. It's safe to attack her after this one, if you dodge it with forward steps. I didn't. The ball, again, is safe. Inflict Paralyze on her here. I think I have a Paralyzed gem equipped here just to get some extra damage on her, and also to have the chance to inflict paralysis, which will help with comboing and stuff. This part is pretty funny, but before we get to that, I want to point out a move that's not safe to approach after. She can do this thing where she fires out a little tendril, and that one has a really short recovery time for her, so she can act very quickly after it. It's generally not safe as Asbel to approach her after that one, so don't do that. But yeah, I was recording this fight while streaming it to Jakun and Homura and Samu, I believe. We were in a voice call. And during this Mystic Art, I kept saying, she's dead, she's dead, she's dead. Like, finally, this was the final thing I needed to record for the run at that point. So I just said, she's dead. Definitely dead. And then right here, I was like, she's not dead, she's not dead. Panic, Moonlight Circle, she tries to push me away, but I kill her before it gets to push me away. I also had Iron Stance, so it wouldn't have pushed me away anyway, but it's a pretty derpy but kind of funny finisher. I don't know. I like it. And that thing kind of wanted me to keep the take, because it's just... She had to get one hit in. Like, I couldn't not get hit by the aura thing against Emeraude. It had to happen at least once. Might as well be right at the end. It did stun me, though, which is kind of funny. As you can see, those stun stars are not Emeraude's. They're mine. As you can also tell from the animation at the end here. Richard 4. This was actually one of the first fights I recorded for the run. When I'd finished practicing art skipping and stuff, I decided to start at the end, so I could see, okay, is there any equipment I need to prepare before this point? Turns out yes, but we'll save that for this guy. I was capable of taking down Richard 4 at that point with the save files I had, as it turns out. I can't remember if this is the exact take. It might be a re-recorded one, but if it is, I can't imagine it being much different from the original. But In any case, let's take a look at the final Richard fights. Just waiting for the critical gauge to build up here so I can get a stun on him. Bestial Roar into Infernal Torrent again, because it's cool, and also because I get the full power combo, which boosts my damage nicely. Get the freeze on him, which thankfully wears off before Ice Dragon Flurry. And this is the Abyssal Seal I was talking about, so it turns out it does work. It launches him just high enough. Unfortunately, the combo drops. Which it does right before Ice Dragon Flurry. As you can see, if you look very closely, I'm gonna slow it down by like this much. Take a look at Richard after Dual Impact here. The freeze wears off in between the second and third hit of Dual Impact, and he has time to turn around ever so slightly. And that's what made the combo drop, I'm pretty sure, because the status ailment wore off. In any event, I managed to hit him with the Art Skip Chain, and I still get the Mystic Art out, which is pretty cool. I'm not sure why, but thank you, Graces. And just as I said before, Axel to picking him up in the air. He got stunned, so I feel comfortable using Plasma Shock. It's going to hit him on the way down, keeping him in the air for a little bit longer, so I can sidestep around him. And this sidestep is also one of the things that will hopefully make the Axel Mystic Art come out. Because that was a choke point in the fight earlier, before I figured that out. Moonlight Circle knocks him away a little bit, and then the Wisp hits him as Infernal Torrent is coming out, enabling it to hit him full. I have some time to wait. To get a little bit of CC back. I don't think I ended up needing it, but I can't afford to wait after Divine Conqueror because it doesn't knock down, unlike Stampede Strike. You only need to use Axel immediately after Stampede Strike against Richard 3 and 4, specifically because it knocks him down and he can recover in the air. With Divine Conqueror, though, it's perfectly fine. Another Infernal Torrent Art Skip. And there you can see it more clearly, the thing I was talking about during the Entrails Parasite fight. I stun him, and then I activate my Mystic Art. You can see the counter is at 84 hits. Everything connected cleanly. But the combo counter drops because he was stunned. Doesn't matter because he dies all the same. As I believe it's the end of a thought, this song is called. Possibly the end of a thought, since we're fighting Richard. Haha. I tried going for a bit of a theme with the Richard fights, going through all of the four, the three main Tales of Symphonia battle themes, and then also the end of a thought for the final fight against Richard. If anyone picked up on that, well done. If not, whatever. I think it's a cute detail. I liked it. Okay. The big man himself, the Lambda Angelus. Excuse me. This guy is a massive pain. Much like the first Lambda fight, if you start the fight with a critical hit, you can just stagger him for a very long time and combo him for almost even longer, it seems. But the difficult part this time around is actually getting that crit, because Lambda doesn't actually like you getting close to him. When you run up to him, he will typically throw out a melee attack, possibly a spell, which is almost instant, by the way. It's like a 1 second, if that, cast time. And then he will neck it to the other side of the battlefield and just look at you and throw spells at you and stuff like that. But let's take a look at it. The final fight in the Asbel run. Here we go. See, I'm having to dodge around a lot, which will drain my critical gauge, which is going to make it more difficult to actually start a combo against him. Interestingly, Soul Reaper, even if you perfect dodge it, gives him the full heal as he would have gotten if he just hit you with it normally. Thankfully, it maxes out my critical gauge and kind of resets him, in essence. So all the damage I did to him before this point, it's essentially gone. But it does allow me to start the combo with a crit. For this fight, by the way, I have a gem at a very high level. I can't remember exactly what level, but on it I have Exorcist, which gives me more damage against enemies that are of the spirit type, or are weak to spirit, which this guy is. So that was basically just to squeeze out some extra damage. I believe I am also using the title that gives me more Mystic Art damage, I think. Yeah, I think that's the case. In any event, let's keep watching. I'm so incredibly happy that that chain actually worked. I decided to try it out, just like, I wonder if I can actually connect Aurora Lotus since he stays staggered for so long. Turns out you can. So, it's the same art skip setup you've seen so many times by now. Dual Impact, Ice Dragon, and then Aurora Lotus. Aurora Lotus actually isn't too bad of an art in a vacuum. In a combo, it's kind of bad. It tends to combo into itself fine. But the end lag is absolutely atrocious, so it has to be used as a finisher, basically. But, hey, against Lambda Angelus, you can even use it mid-combo, perfectly fine. Follow up with Axel for the CC recovery. Stampede Strike here before I hit 50 hits, so I can get this Mystic Art out of the way. Also, ouch, that looks like it hurts. Because Lunar Requiem will drop the combo every single time. You can't follow up after it. So I'm getting this one out of the way before I hit the 50 hits threshold. And I trigger it with the Diabolic Rage into the Sheathed Attack, which it actually says in Diabolic Rage's art description that it can be used to combo into Sheathed Attacks. And hey, they weren't lying. It works against the thing that stays staggered for the longest, so woo, I guess. Deathbringer is an insane spell. He casts it so quickly and it covers so much of the battlefield that you essentially have to start dodging it almost while he's casting it. This attack right here, that thankfully didn't hit me, is what we like to call the Hug of Doom. If this hits you, you will die. Like, you will die. It has an insanely fast startup. It's like a couple of frames, I believe. So yeah, don't get hit by that. It's a bad time. I think he's gonna throw it out one more time, so let's see. Another Deathbringer. I'm not sure how that didn't hit me. It might have been an unclean hit on his part. I am not sure. Going to activate Nova there, which is going to let me get enough critical gauge to draw my sword and use Lightning Strike, and then start another combo on him. As you can see on the side here, both our gauges are getting kind of full. He will end up going into Elf Break first, and then I will get my Elf Burst after that, but let's see what happens before then. This looks incredibly well timed. Like, let's look at that again. Here I'm just waiting for CC to come back. And then almost as soon as the 60-second effect comes into place, I front step. That was not calculated. That was pure coincidence. But it looks really cool. I wish it was intentional, because I would feel kind of good about myself. But no, it's just a coincidence. Unfortunately, just as I'm about to keep comboing him, he goes into Elf Break. So I have to run away. There's the hug again. At this point, I lost a bit of momentum. But the Deathbringer hits me, triggers my Elf Burst, and I can go back in and finish him off with Stampede Strike. So, yeah. That was the Asbel run. I guess I should talk a little bit about it in hindsight, and possibly a little bit about why I wanted to do the run in the first place. And I think it's good to bring this up now that we've seen everything rather than at the start, so we can have some more context for it. I wanted to do it because I've always really liked Asbel, but I kind of heard whispers that, you know, Asbel isn't that good. He's kind of not great. But I decided to give him a try, and I just ended up having so much fun that it just felt like a no-brainer to make a run of him. Make a run with him. To run him, that's what I mean. Did I mention I'm tired? In hindsight, I am very, very happy with this run, in general. I think in parts, or like in places, it is some of the best stuff I've ever made. It's certainly the best Graces gameplay I've ever made. Not that there's a lot to compare it to, but, you know. This was a run where I wanted everything to maybe not be as good as I could possibly make it, but for it to be as good as I wanted to make it, I guess. And it turns out that I wanted to make this really good. And I think that's one of the reasons why, A, it took so long to make. Of course, it took several months. But I think in doing so, I managed to learn a lot. And even the fact that I just went back and like re-recorded bosses was something I almost never did back in the day. I would just get a successful take, be like, that's probably good enough, put it up, and then look at it like a week or two later and be like, I could have done that better, but well, it's too late now. But with this, when I could just upload it when it was done, and actually holding back and not uploading before I had everything in place, I was able to fine-tune a lot of things, and make it a very enjoyable experience for myself. Like, I still, like, even have fun just watching this run, because I can appreciate some of the details that I threw in there, music-wise and, like, combo-wise. Derps, unintentionally cool moments, stuff like that. Even, of course, the intentionally cool moments as well. All in all, it was an incredibly satisfying experience overall. There were definitely points where I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, please just let this be over. Or like, why does this boss exist? Can't I just skip this, or blah blah blah? Specifically, Dispaters, Kurt, Lambda Angelus even was a big pain for me. Oh yeah, I guess I should mention, I forgot to mention it while I was actually watching the video, but Lambda Angelus, which was actually recorded, like, the day before it was supposed to go up. Like, this specific take. Because I was watching through everything, and, like, I think once I'd uploaded Emeraude, I was like, I'm really not happy with this Lambda Angelus take. So I went back and I made that one, which I'm much, much happier with. Cutting it kind of close. But I think it was good that I also allowed myself to go back and re-record things even after I'd started uploading. That way I didn't have to feel like... It's like, when are you done with a run, really? You could sit on it for ages and then just never bring it out, really, because you keep thinking, well, what if I could do it better? Sometimes you just need to start putting things out there once everything's been recorded, and then you can take a look as you're uploading things and as you're viewing things perhaps differently and seeing what other people are saying, seeing what other people are enjoying, and then realize, oh, well, some of these fights don't really have a lot of that. Could I do that? And it turns out in some cases, specifically Richard 1, Richard 3, and Lambda Angelus, it turns out, yeah, I absolutely could. What else to say about the run? I am very, very happy with this type of upload schedule. I realize that it might be annoying to see a video from a channel every single day for like 2 weeks. Just like flooding the sub feed. But I also didn't want to just put everything in one video because I wanted to give the fights the space they deserve. Especially for the ones that I was really, really happy with. Like, I wanted that to just have its own separate space and not be part of a compilation, I guess. And I also didn't want to just have the luxury of having the less maybe impressive takes just kind of blend into the background when put right next to something really good. So I think, at least in my eyes, and for what I wanted to accomplish with this run, I think it was a pretty honest way of doing it. So you can expect that to continue in the future, to just have one boss per video. So I can give the fight the space it deserves, essentially. I have nothing against uploading multiple bosses in a video, of course not. I've done it before, but this is how I'm going to do it from now on, I believe, and it is how I'm choosing to do things. It doesn't mean it's better, or doesn't mean it's even worse either. It's just the way I want to do it, because it's what feels right to me. I don't really have a lot of closing words, other than, I guess, thank you for sitting through this. What's probably going to end up being just shy of 2 hours after I trimmed this down a little bit. As for what's next, I don't want to say anything yet, because there's nothing I can say, because nothing's planned even. Well, I have plans, but nothing's really carved in stone yet. We'll see. What comes next as a full run will be a surprise for me as well. But I do know that it's not going to come out this year. Possibly not even early next year. It might be like towards the spring, almost. It depends. With this commentary track out of the way, though, I can finally move away from Asbel and just let it be a finished run, rather than a project that's been running for months and months and months now. Sorry, by the way, that it took a little bit longer than planned to get this commentary track out. some stuff just ended up coming up that delayed it, and then I got a cold the other week when I was planning on doing it, so that was super fun. But I did find some spare time now, in my sleep-deprived delirium, to actually record this. And I hope it's been insightful. If not insightful, I hope it's been interesting. If not interesting, I hope it's been decent background noise while you either play a game or just ride the bus or listen, just are doing something else. Yeah. Ooh, on the topic of commentary tracks in general, I will be making commentary tracks for every run going forward. What you can hope to see, though, is that they'll probably be a lot more structured than this one. I've essentially been talking out of my ass for the past 1 hour and 40 minutes or so. And I hope what's come out has been constructive in any way. For future commentary tracks, I'm going to take more notes in the moment so I don't have to watch several month-old videos and try to remember what I was thinking. It's easier to just write it down when it's happening so I can look back and then compare that with what I'm feeling at the time of recording the commentary. Another thing I was planning on maybe doing for future commentary tracks would be to live stream them. That way I could respond to questions as they come up, and I could like be reminded of things I forgot to bring up. Like, I'm sure there was something I missed and just straight up forgot to talk about. But I guess that's the nature of these unscripted, very reactionary things. Let me take a look actually and see if I answered the questions that were posted in the Discord server. Asbel and the Wisp troubles when activating MAs. That's the note I wrote down, by the way. I talked about that a little bit. Sidestep tends to help. Difficult combo points, I talked about most of the ones that were relevant, like the art skips, for example. Almost every art skip was a difficult combo point. Getting the Mystic Art to trigger in itself after the Wisp was out was also a difficult combo point. The most difficult one was the one in Witcher 2 that I talked about, where I had to hit burn at a very specific time. And I've also touched a little bit upon what the save files were like. So yeah, I think I covered it. Super duper. But yeah, I really have nothing else to say, really, other than I've already said thank you, so I guess I don't really need to say that again. But I'm gonna say it again anyway. Thank you. Thank you again to all of the people I mentioned at the start of this video. I will put their channels in the description. Join the Discord server, I guess. A link to that will also be in the description. And I think with that like super original closing line, I am just going to say thank you once again, and I will see you when I see you with the next Tales run, whenever that may be. Alright, peace, goodbye.